And okay, we're just going to start recording now. All right. So with us tonight, we have Andrea Werner, one of our top Bashert Lounge matchmakers. I'm going to talk a little bit. There's a couple of you that may not know what Bashert Lounge is. We are a Facebook group that try to match singles up to find their Bashert for free. We're a volunteer-run service. I'm just going to put in a couple of links here so that you can check them out after the class. Right here. Everyone. Okay, so that you can check out more about Bashert Lounge. And we also have Jessica Fass, who we're very happy to have with us tonight. She works with singles in Israel and the US. She's an internationally award-winning matchmaker, and she's also a dating coach. I'm going to put some information about Jessica in here as well. We're going to get to hear more about Jessica in a couple minutes. And without further ado, I'm going to set up our presentation if Jessica and Andrea are ready.
Yep. And Sam, I would just say maybe refresh the registrations, and like if you want to send out the link again. There might have been some new people who just signed up.
I'm going to keep an eye on it.
Okay, cool. We don't want anyone to miss it.
Exactly. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen to kind of introduce what we're going to be talking about tonight. Okay.
Beautiful presentation.
Thank you. Okay. Andrea, do you want to introduce us and start us off with what we're going to be doing tonight?
Sure. So first off, I just wanted to say thank you for everyone for coming and taking your time tonight to talk about what we think is a really important topic, which is thinking about the difference between deal breakers and preferences. I think it's a question we're always thinking about and especially talking about as matchmakers. And so we're really excited that you guys think it's interesting as well. I'm really excited to have Jessica here to talk with me about this. And let's just get started and get into it.
Sounds good.
I'm excited.
So first off, just so everyone's on the same page, we wanted to let you know what are our goals here tonight and what are we going to try to talk about and leave you with. So one thing that we feel is really important is to just give you some tools to identify what is most important to you, because how can you really start talking about deal breakers versus preferences if you don't know what's important to you? So that's really key in trying to parse those two things out, right? Another is how to recognize when someone is on target for you. So I know I do it often. I'll send somebody a profile to see if they're interested. Or I hear a lot from my singles that, a friend will recommend somebody and they always ask me, how do I know whether I'm interested in this person? Because they always just sound great by their profile, right? So some of that is looking through and figuring out what are your deal breakers and preferences and finding them in the profile. And sometimes it's being able to ask the right questions to somebody, which come from knowing those deal breakers and preferences. So we'll hopefully get to talk a little bit about that with you as well. Another thing we often find is that somebody often has an image that they kind of see as what they're looking for in their match. And sometimes that's not what that person needs at the end of the day. Unfortunately, a lot of the times, you think you found the right person on paper, they're perfect, they're everything you've ever wanted. You get into the relationship and you realize it's just not going to work. And to figure out why it doesn't work when they met all of those preferences that you listed is really challenging sometimes. So kind of thinking through that, what is this ideal versus what are those core things you really need and how do you find somebody that matches that? And then when to give someone a chance versus when to say, no, thank you, I appreciate it. So I don't know how many times I've heard the conversation of, should you say yes to every person who asks you out? Should you say yes to every person that a matchmaker offers you? And I think there is a balance there in trying to figure out when to say yes and when to say no, so that you are going on dates, but you're not getting burnt out and making dating your entire life, and losing the sense of who you are as a person and your enjoyment of dating. I think is also key in having that balance.
Thank you so much, Andrea. I just want to, before we continue, I don't know if I mentioned it, I just want to remind everyone, we're going to be going over questions during the 30-minute period that were submitted before, but if you have questions during the presentation, just make sure that you chat them in the chat box on the bottom of your screen, okay? And we will review them at the end. Okay, ready? Next one?
Ready. Next, please.
Okay.
Great. So what I think is really important anytime I'm talking about something is really defining those key terms that we're talking about, because sometimes I'm talking about one thing and you're thinking another thing, and that doesn't work, right? So when we're going to talk about deal breakers tonight, we're talking about things that are an absolute no for you. So sometimes that could be something like doesn't live in the US. For me, when I was dating, it was somebody who was really passionate about moving to Israel and making Aliyah. I respect that, but that's not something I wanted in my personal life, and I didn't want to stop somebody from making that decision. So that's a no thank you, I'm going to say no to this profile. Then there are those preferences. Those maybe, I'd really like if, or like it doesn't bother me so much that that person has X, Y, or Z. So one I hear often a lot from females is taller than me. Another one that often gets talked about is education and degrees. So thinking through what that is and preferences as being those maybes. And then something that I think is always really key when you're trying to figure out who's a good match for you and what you need is values. And those are a must-have. So when you think about your really true core values, that's really something that you want to share with your partner. Because in order to have meaningful conversation, feel supported, you need those core values to align. And so that's something that we also want to keep in mind when we're talking about deal breakers and preferences.
Okay.
Beautifully said, Andrea. I'm so happy to just listen and agree.
Jessica, do you have more examples of these different terms that maybe we could help elaborate?
Yeah, well, Andrea said it so well, but deal breakers. So yeah, like every day I talk to tons of singles a day, whether it's on Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, or phone call. And, you know, like they come with a list. Like, I only want someone that lives in my city. It has to be at least 3 inches taller than me. I'm giving an example of a woman, let's just say. It has to be at least 5 inches taller than me. Let's be realistic. And, you know, like exactly my level of Judaism. And so we're going to get into this later, which we call the big six. But it's, you know, like, why does the height or the exact level of Judaism really matter? If you can back that up and give reasons about, well, you know, I really keep kosher. I want to have a kosher home. If the man I'm with doesn't even know how to keep kosher or how to keep the mitzvot, like I'm not going to be patient to be a teacher. But if you do think you can be a patient to be a teacher and the man is open to growing, why not say yes? You know, so it really depends if the match you're getting matched with has said, I'm staying a secular, you know, a bacon eating Jew, then that's not going to be a match for you if you know, want to live kind of like a modern Orthodox observant lifestyle. So that I totally get. But all I can say is, like, play with different things. Like, you want to stay in California? Okay, but what about someone in Northern California? It's not that far. As opposed to, you tell me a hard deal breaker is, I want someone in this country. I don't want Israel or Europe. I understand. That's a hard move,
Right.
You know?
So
But
it's about the balance, really, of like the whole.
it's about the balance. And if you need to do if it's hard for you to be objective because it's yourself, ask a family member what they think, ask a friend, and then maybe go to a dating coach or a matchmaker and get like 3 opinions. And I always say this, even in dating, like when I'm getting date feedback from clients, if 3 people that I matched you with are saying similar feedback, that's when you want to take like a close look and think about, like, okay, what am I doing? Because now 3 people noticed that. So maybe I can adjust something. You can't change who you are and your values, but if you sometimes have anger issues, blow up easily, if you you know, I try to think of other things, but things that you can, you have bad table manners, like things that you could adjust if you had the right tools, and self-awareness of them, like try to work on that.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. Let's keep going, and we're gonna touch on a lot of those topics in a couple of slides, I think also, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so big
All right.
question.
So now that we have our key terms in line, so we really want to try to figure out what you are looking for in a partner. And I think a great way to do that is to ask some of these questions. So one that I really always ask my singles to think about is, what do they want their future home and family to look like? And even if you already have a family, what does that combined family look like? Is it important to you to stay in a place near your family? Is it important for you to have certain meals with your family? Sometimes traveling to family events is something really big for some people, not for others. So you want to think about that. Similarly, what qualities do I appreciate in my close friends? I get a lot of questions about how do I possibly know what I'm looking for or what the right person is. So many people are great. I get along with so many people. And I always say, think about your close friends. You might have a ton of friends who are extroverted and introverted and you think you get along with everybody. But when it comes to choosing those 2, 3 close friends who you've had a really long-term relationship with, you really trust, and you'd be so happy being stuck on an island with them for years and years, you know, those characteristics that are in those friends are probably something that you want to look for in your partner, because as we all say at the end of the day, we want our partner to be our best friend. So why not already look at your best friends and see how you can find a partner with those characteristics. Next, what do I admire about other people's relationships? You know, I myself didn't always have the best examples of relationships when I was growing up. So I looked to my friends' families or to other homes that I went to see and try to figure out what was something that I did want in my relationship and what was something that I didn't. One example of that is something like some couples like to do any and everything together. You know, they could be independent and be on their own, but they just enjoy it so much more with their partner, and that's great. Whereas some couples like to be more independent. They want to be able to go on trips with their friends. They want to be able to go have a drink and a guy or a girl's night. And they want their partner to be comfortable with that and allow them to have some freedom and independence and personal time. And so seeing how other people interact and how their relationship looks can help you think about what do you want your relationship to look like and what's important to you. What do I need to feel supported and like part of a team? Because really at the end of the day, if you're going to be with somebody for hopefully the rest of your life, you want to be a part of a team. You don't want to be pulling that truckload all alone. And that doesn't mean that we're having equal gender roles as some people might think. So it doesn't mean that if my husband and I are a partner, that means that my husband's doing half the cooking and I'm doing half the cooking. It means that I'm doing certain things in the relationship and he's doing certain things in the relationship, and we're balancing each other out and we feel supported at the end of the day. When my husband plans a date after I've spent a long week making sure that, you know, he's had meals to go to work, it makes me feel supported in order to get that break. I don't need him to cook me a meal in order to feel supported in that. And the same thing in other ways for him. And then what values are most important to you? Again, that big values word is coming up because we really feel it's so key to finding the right person. And I listed to some values that I often hear people list out. There are so many more. So just keeping those in mind and really trying to parse out how you can ask questions about values in an open, honest way, how you can look and read profiles and find those little touches of values hidden in there can really help the process go a little bit easier.
Thank you so much for that. I know we got a couple of new people in. I just wanted to get everyone up to speed that we're going over deal breakers versus preferences, the eternal question. If at any point anyone has questions, please chat them into the chat box and we're going to review questions on the second half of this class. Okay, ready for the next slide?
Ready.
Okay, Jessica, can you walk us through the aforementioned Big Six?
Yes. So I came up with this recently in the last couple of months, where I branded it the Big Six. as I was talking to more and more people during this quarantine, and kind of came up with, these are kind of the 6 things that most people stay closed on and call them their deal breakers. So I'm trying to like encourage everyone to open up 3 of the 6, and you're going to have much more options for love, you know, because statistically there's only so many Jews in the world, and then how many are in your own city or state, and then how many are you actually emotionally, spiritually, and physically attracted to. The number gets smaller and smaller. So we all want to stay with a Jew, so we need to open up other things. So Jew, deal breaker, that's fine. I'm happy with that deal breaker. Let's keep that. Let's see if we can open up on other things. So age, I tell women to stay open to 10 to 12 years older. You would not believe, some of you might say, yeah, no problem, what's wrong? And then you would not believe pushback I hear of women saying, I won't go more than 5 years older because I look great for my age. I take care of myself. In fact, younger guys like me. Okay, that's great. Younger guys may date you, but will they marry you? Maybe they will. And you, if you've ever seen that movie, He's Just Not That Into You, it's based on a book that was written by true stories. So you might want to challenge me and say, but that's a movie, but it was based on true stories. He will say in that movie, in that book, you are the exception, you're not the rule. So try to go by the rules. And if we get an exception, if a woman does end up with a younger man, I'm super happy for you. But just try to just remember that there are kind of like these general rules, guidelines, to stay open-minded while dating. So women, be open to 10 to 12 years older. I know when it's getting to 15 years, it's kind of hairy. I'm not saying you have to date 15, 20 years older, but if he acts youthful, takes care of himself, you don't feel a big age gap, why not try it? You know, and men, I would love you to stay open to like 4 or 5 years older than you. Again, it's an exception. I know men always want to date younger. This is what I hear every day. Men are always judging the woman's biological clock. And, you know, but it goes both ways, because women also don't want to start families with men 20 years older than them because they feel like they're not going to have as much energy and, quite frankly, be around for as long. So you have to understand how both sides come to me and what they both say. So I'm giving you kind of like some truth serum here today, from what I deal with as a professional matchmaker in my full-time career. So that's age. So stay open. Okay. Men, please also stay open to even up to your own age. Like, you know, if you're 45 and the woman still never got married and had kids of her own, she probably froze her eggs, or she's open to adoption. And if she writes, I want a family more than anything, stay open to your own age. Why not? Because you could date a 30-something-year-old and then you only find out after you're married that it's hard for her to get pregnant. You never know who's gonna, so don't give me the fertility thing. Okay. So cultural, ethnic background, I get it. Having more similarities is better than differences for long-term partnerships. So if you're Ashkenazi and you tell me I want to date only Ashkenazi, if you're Sephardic and you say I only want to date Sephardic, I kind of get it, but maybe open up on this too, because there, you know, it might be okay to go with the other cultural background. Also, on the other flip side of the coin, sometimes I have Ashkenazi saying I'm only attracted to Sephardic, and some Sephardic saying I'm only attracted to Ashkenazi. So now you're making it even more difficult by saying I'm only attracted to the other type, but that they're not usually always attracted to you. It's usually like attracts like. Again, always exceptions, and I'm super happy whenever I see the mixed marriages. I think it's awesome. And but just be open. And my marriages, I've matched an Israeli to a Dutch woman, Israeli to a Danish woman, American man to a Brazilian woman. So I have seen you know, different cultures work out, and the kids are going to be trilingual, and it's amazing. However, I will tell you, those are all Ashkenazi. But yeah, please be open. We're all Jewish, as long as the families can accept each other, as long as, you know, you find it interesting maybe to be with a Persian and learn that culture. You need to be an open-minded, culturally diverse, open person for, you know, for an Ashkenazi to go with a Persian, as an example. Religious observance level. That's where I say, if you are super reform or secular, bacon-eating Jew, like not even keeping Yom Kippur, you cannot go out with someone modern Orthodox. You know, I totally get it. Maybe you could go out with someone conservative who's like, hey, can you start, like, I'm conservative, traditional, can you start doing Yom Kippur with me? Could you stop eating bacon? Like, you don't have to become completely kosher, but could you cut that out? Like, think about it. Like, can you? Like, can you give up your shrimp and bacon? Like, if you don't need it to live, maybe you could give it up and be with someone a little bit more conservative in their Judaism. You can't really ask someone to become less, but you should be really, if you care about a Jewish partner, because I get so many people being like, I don't care, I eat bacon, I don't care about Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, but I still want to marry a Jew. Why? You might as well marry a non-Jew. Like, you know, because now you're telling me, like, I don't care about Judaism, but I want to marry a Jew. And then I got to find someone at your level that's also the bacon eating Jew. And, you know, it's just hard. So try to be open to somebody who's a little bit more. Also, if you're conservative, meaning like, you know, you kind of keep kosher, you do the major holidays, maybe you can date someone modern Orthodox keeping Shabbat. Maybe when you're single, and you've never kept Shabbat, I agree, it's really hard. But, you know, but if you get married and have a family, you could keep Shabbat, I feel, because then it's just you and your family and it's like a beautiful thing. As a single, and let's say you live with family that's not keeping Shabbat, it's very hard to like try to convince your whole family to start changing and keeping Shabbat, you know? So so the bottom line is be open to growing and being with someone a little bit more religious than yourself. Politics, wow. Politics is so loaded today. It really reflects your core values and your ideology today. So if this was 10 years ago, maybe 15, we would say it wouldn't matter as much. But now I totally get it, why it's divisive. All I ask is, if you are extreme liberal or extreme right wing, it might never work unless you both say, well, you're really knowledgeable to the left and you're really knowledgeable to the right, and I could really learn from you. And it could be really cool and fun to have these like dynamic conflicting conversations. There is a famous husband and wife married couple with one is extreme liberal, one's conservative, Carville and something. I forget if anyone knows, but look them up, because apparently they've had a long-term happy marriage. You know, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but this is like what we see. So it can work if you both respect each other. If you do not respect the other one's opinions, this I understand can be a deal breaker. If you are strong in your political ideologies either way. If you're moderate in the middle, be open to someone more conservative than you or more liberal than you. So that's what I'll say about this one. You can keep on your list of deal breakers because I get it. Location. This one also is very tough. I get it if you have established your career, you love your family, you love your friends, you're from Los Angeles, born and raised, you love it here, you cannot even imagine going to the East Coast. However, have you exhausted your resources? Do you feel that you know every relevant Jewish single in your area? Then you might need to open up and open your location, and your family will be happy for you. You know, like go start, they shouldn't want to hold you back. They should be happy for you to go start your family and your children. So keep that in mind. And I match people internationally. So I've had a woman relocate from Brazil. Her mother comes and visits and she stays for a month at a time and helps take care of the baby. And it's fabulous. My couple in Israel with the wife from Holland, he wanted a new adventure. They moved to Holland a couple years ago. The couple, the Israeli and the Danish woman, they really thought they'd stay in Israel because she loves Israel, but they want to try the new adventure and they can make more money there. So he's giving up his career and starting over. They're moving to Denmark. He never thought in a million years would he ever leave Israel. Okay. And he's moving to Denmark for his family. So be open on location. Children. Yes, this one, if you want children, you're entitled to want children. If you don't want children, just be strong about that. It's very sad to get into a relationship, ladies, with a man that you thought he's going to change his mind. Like, as I think, is it Maya Angelou that said, when people tell you who they are, believe them. So unless the guy said, I am open to children, I didn't really want it, but if my wife wants it, I'll do it. That can be okay. But if he's like, I'm not having more children, I've already had, I'm divorced, or I just never wanted, and there's women that say, I've never wanted children. So I wouldn't make that mistake of getting into the relationship with someone that's a hard yes or a hard no on children. If you're open and you're a maybe, that's great. Then you can proceed, because I do believe it's the right relationship. You're in love. I mean, the whole point of Jewish marriage is Jewish babies. So I believe the person that was open is going to sway to the yes side. So that's it really, you guys. So try to keep open-minded on 3 of them, because you cannot be closed on all 6. These are the people that stay single. So that's the truth from the matchmakers files. And I give it back to you.
Inside scoop, Jessica.
The inside scoop. That's what we'll call it.
Okay, I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of questions. We're going to get to them soon. We have a couple more slides, right?
No. Now we're
Oh,
going to the question.
okay.
Oh,
So,
that's it.
so what's going to happen now is I have a couple of questions for Jessica and Andrea based on what was submitted already, but I did just want to take a second to show you some links. If you're not part of Bashert Lounge Facebook group, feel free to join us, bit.ly/Bashert Lounge FB. You can post your profile. You can also then check out our Airtable bit.ly links to get matched if you want to work with us. Also, I have Jessica Fass's information on here. Also, Jessica, you're based in LA, right?
Yeah, I'm based in LA, have clients all over the world. If you want to be matched in Israel, in Europe, throughout the US, and if you need advice about how to make it work, because right now it's all, if you're dating long distance, it's all virtual. So we can have a one-on-one call, an hour or two, where I can help you kind of figure it out. Like, I have so many nuanced things happening right now. Like, someone was going to go fly to meet someone, and in that city you have to stay quarantined for 2 weeks. So should I go? Should I not? So if you just need to have like a one-off call about someone you're dating long distance, I was doing this before coronavirus because I lived in Israel for 5 years and made Aliyah and started the business there. So I already kind of specialized in long distance. And a big plug and shout out to Bashert Lounge. And thank you so much for having me, Sam and Andrea. And they are doing mitzvahs left and right. Join the Facebook group because you could find your own match in there. And join their speed datings because it's for free, right? So you have nothing to lose and everything to gain to be matched that way.
For sure. Okay, I'm going to, so now, I think I sent the links earlier. I will send them again for Jessica and Andrea and I and all that good stuff. Okay, so now we're going to be entering Q&A. While I'm asking these questions that were submitted already, feel free to, oh, we had one more slide. Okay, hold on.
Oh, did we?
If anybody has questions, please don't be shy. You can either chat everybody or chat me. I'm happy to share your question with the presenters. Give me 1 second. We have one more slide.
Really quickly, Jessica just shared some really great books that are great resources. And I've even used one of them to help me through the dating process and, you know, figure out what I was looking for in order to have a successful marriage. So, you know, I think especially during this time where a lot of us are home for more time than we would like, these are some books that you can look up and, you know, see if you want to order and invest some time in.
Okay, so we got, I only want to get married once, 7 principles of making marriage work, get real, get married, and marry him, the case for settling for Mr. Good Enough. Oh boy.
That's a really fun one. And I think men can listen to it too, because you can apply it to women. But I only want to get married once is by Hannah Leviton, a big Jewish educator. 7 principles of making marriage work is by John Gottman. Go to gottman.com and get all his free resources. And they're like the leading marriage therapists, him and his wife. They're also Jewish, Gottmans. Get real, get married. Strategies to get over your hurdles and under the huppah is by Aliza Ben Shalom, a top marriage relationship coach. Marry Him is by a Jewish reform therapist named Lori Gottlieb. But anyway, if you Google the titles, I'm sure it's going to come up.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jessica. Those are great. Okay. So I have a couple of questions that were submitted ahead of time. And okay, so I feel like we just went over this really big topic of the big 6. Here's one question that I have for Jessica. Actually, let's get Andrea, I'm going to ask you this.
Okay.
When do you have to give up a couple of your would likes and settle for your must-haves only? Meaning, I think what this question is how do you assess where and when in the dating process you are in your life to start narrowing down your big 6?
Right. I think it's a great question. And I think the answer changes all the time. I know I needed to do that when I was searching. I'm one of those mixed couples Jessica was talking about. I'm Sephardi and my husband's Ashkenaz. And, even though I grew up a little bit of a mix, and my parents are also mixed, I really wanted to continue that Sephardi heritage. And I realized I just kept looking and coming up with no answers. And I tried to think about what were my real priorities in life, and what did I need right now in my life? Like, was it really that important for me right now to get married? Or could I wait and see if that fish was going to come along in the sea to find somebody? And I decided, no, it wasn't really worth waiting. I decided that it was more important to me to have my must-haves, and that it was time to kind of leave some of those preferences aside and see what was available in just those must-have areas. But there were certain things in those preferences that I tried to keep and have discussions about during my date. So I didn't like leave them behind and say, who cares about that? I just didn't make it the forefront of what I was looking for when I was saying yes or no to profiles. And I think that's really the key. And I'll give you just one quick example so you can see how you could do that in your own life too. Even though my household might not be of Sephardi customs all the time, number one, I'm doing the cooking, so I'm in control of that. So I'm able to go back and forth and show what's a really big part of my heritage is the food that we eat, and what my grandmothers taught me. And then another thing was we have some, so a lot of people know Yiddish. Not everyone knows about Ladino. But I'm Turkish, and that was something that I really wanted my family to have exposure to. And so I said to my husband, look, we can have Ashkenaz customs. I'm okay with that. Our kids are probably going to Ashkenaz school anyway. Let's be honest here, if I'm sending them to Jewish day school. But in the home environment, I'd like a couple of things mixed in so that they learn about both traditions and they learn about my heritage as well as yours. And so we have been able to incorporate that. So sometimes you don't need to look for your preferences. You can just set them in the back burner and see how can I wiggle them in here once you find somebody who has all your must-haves. Does that answer the question a little bit? Just
Yeah, I think so.
to add there.
I think it's a great answer. That's really, I would never have thought that you're Sephardi, Andrea. You cannot tell through Zoom.
There you go.
Okay, so Jessica, I think this is something we touched on earlier. How soon do you know if you enjoy someone's company or not? It can take time to warm up to someone, especially of the opposite gender.
Yes, it's a good one. Yeah, because I have my clients go out and then I get the feedback, and like I hear from one side that they thought it was a great date and are super excited, and then the other one's saying like, they're a nice person. I don't know if it's going to grow to like romantic attraction. And so it's very hard when one side is like really excited, the other one isn't. And I push the side that's not as excited to go out again. But as a matchmaker, I have to. If both sides were like, not for me, I wouldn't push, because that's just like a sign from Hashem. But if one side is like super excited and the other one's like in the middle, of course you should go out again. And I say 3 dates. My Israeli business partner actually says 5, but I think 3 dates, because the first 2 feel like friendship hangouts, like just like you're a stranger, let's get to know each other. The 3rd date, you can you've built enough like connection and rapport that you can like see if it's going to turn romantic. And if you really, ladies, you don't have to feel guilty about this. I believe you can give it 5 dates. So whether it's 5 Zooms, 5 in-person dates, if you're not sure, just start offering to split the bill, like on the 3rd date, so that you don't feel like you're taking advantage of the guy and his money. But just like say like, no, it's, like, let me pay my half. Or you could let him pay like 2-3 times and then say, I've got this one. And again, that's just like friends treating each other. So you don't have to feel guilty and bad about that. And if you really gave it 5 times, I think, and you're not feeling it, I think it's okay to say like, you're not for me. But you can say you were a gentleman, or the man can also say to the woman, you were like great, you have a lovely personality, I'm going to keep you in mind for friends. And that might actually happen one day. You might think of the friend or the relative for them. So if you keep each other in mind like that, it's great. Now, a hard no after a first date, if you're just like really turned off because they said something offensive or you're repulsed, like I understand. When I get feedback and one side says absolutely not, I don't push. If I hear they're a good person, I see why you matched us, then I'm like, okay, then you have to go out again. If they're a good person and you can see why I matched you, So that's a good self-test if you don't have me or Andrea in the middle. Like, they're a good person. I see some common interests or values. I see why you match, or I see why it's a match. Go out. When in doubt, go out is a saying also. So, and then someone else says date until you hate them, although I don't like that one. I like when in doubt, go out.
Yeah, I was about to say that's a little bit nicer. Let's keep.
Yeah, it's not nice. I've heard someone say that before. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would just say, you should keep in mind too what it's like to go on those first dates. People always, I've heard the advice of like, remember, the other party might be really nervous. And I
Yep.
could be like, really? No, I can tell. But I mean, it's really true. Somebody who's, a lot more introverted and nervous might have a harder time opening up. But by date 2 or 3, they might be this chatty person you never knew was there. Or, date number 1, they come in their full makeup gear, heels, whatever, and you find out really they're usually in yoga pants all the time. Okay. So like sometimes people are getting bad advice. They're super nervous. So, if you think date number 1 was like, but you're interested, maybe this could be, but I'm not really sure. Switch the environment, switch something about the date so you can learn more about that person. Because if you're just going on coffee date after coffee date or dinner date after dinner date, you might just be getting the same person. But if you then go on like a mini golf date or, a museum date, maybe you'll find new sides to that person you didn't know exists and you wouldn't have known if you didn't give them another chance.
I want to comment on what Andrea just said because it's so brilliant. Yeah, change the environment. Don't just sit at the restaurant across from each. You need to do like activity dates starting on date 2. So whether it's a walk, because as you walk, sometimes different thoughts come out of your mouth, or you see, like you see something. An example: you're walking by Santa Monica Pier and you see there's a trapeze artist thing there now, and then the guy could be like, "Oh, I used to do that," and it's like, what, like that. And it's like, whoa, where'd that wouldn't have come out if you weren't on the walk, or you see some dogs and, oh yeah, I used to like foster dogs or cats, and that comes out. And then if you go mini golfing or bowling, you see the guy is actually really good at it. And that's like a turn on to us ladies when we see a guy really good at something. And so seeing someone doing something active, and these days we have more active dates because we have to be outside more. So it's more like beach walks and picnics. Men, you can impress the ladies so much if you just pick an interesting restaurant, you surprise her and you just get it to go, and you're supporting the local restaurant, the local business. And then you put it in the picnic basket and you make it look all nice. This impresses them more than if you took them to the 5-star restaurant, which is closed down right now during COVID anyway. Because you had to put thought and creativity. So ladies, give the men a chance to show you their creativity by going out more with them, because they can't, and they are so nervous on first dates. Last thing I want to say, men, more than women, they talk too much if they're nervous. So they end up just talking the whole time, and they forgot that they didn't even ask you any questions because they were just trying to fill the silences. And then I get the feedback later. The woman says, he didn't ask me one thing about myself. He doesn't know me at all. I don't even think he liked me because he just kept talking about himself. And then the men are cracking up. I get the feedback from the man, oh, I liked her so much. And I'm like, really? Do you know one thing about her? Do you know she has siblings? Do you even know what she does for work? Oh, wait. Oh, I thought I did. Did I not? I didn't ask that. And then I go, were you nervous? Every time they go yes. I was, and that's why they talked like that. So if they talk too much, they probably like you, just so you know. Instead, I end up getting opposite feedback that the woman actually says, I thought he hated me, is feedback I've gotten repeatedly. So men, listen more, and the women will be like putty in your head.
Both sides gotta work a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one more question for you, and then we have a couple of questions from the crowd. I don't think we covered this as far as our Big Six conversation. When do you ask if the person is looking for marriage, as I am, rather than just a long-term relationship? And if they say no to wanting marriage, do you move on? Meaning, let's say I find someone and he just doesn't ever want to get married, but he fits all my other boxes. But getting married is something important to me.
Do you want to start first, Andrea?
Sure. So I think like when we were thinking about those big six and the deal breakers and the values, sometimes for me, I often say, make a hierarchy. Where is marriage on your hierarchy? Okay. For me, that was number one. Like, I've never pictured myself in anything other than marriage. So it might be a great guy, but if he's really that anti-marriage, and you know, maybe he's tried it before and he didn't like it. Okay. That's totally okay. My father is divorced and he's never getting married again. He's in a full-time relationship and has a life partner, and that's great for him. But that wasn't great for me when I was dating. So it didn't matter what the guy was after the rest of the profile. If it started with, I'm not interested in marriage, the answer is no. If the idea of marriage is only important to you because you've been told that so long and you're not really sure why it's important to you, explore that a little bit. Do you really just want someone who's committed to you and that's okay and you don't need a paper saying that? Or is that Jewish ceremony and that matrimonial just something special that you're looking for? So I think there is some, you know, personal wavering in that, and it comes down to really knowing yourself and what's on that top of the priority and what maybe has some more flexibility.
Completely agreed. You said it all.
Cool. Okay, so you touched on the quarantine situation, virtual dating. I just got a question. What's the key, or what is your top recommendation to letting a long distance relationship survive if traveling is hard during this pandemic? Because, you know, we're like 4 or 5 months in to a pandemic right now, and let's say you met someone 2 months ago and it's like a little bit hard to like keep
Yep.
things going at this point. So what, like, let's say you're on opposite coasts, let's like just say that's the scenario.
Yep.
What are some, you know, how can we keep this going a little bit until we can safely travel?
Yeah. So sure, I'll start. I'd love to hear Andrea's thoughts on it too. I'm dealing with this all the time, every day right now. So it's all with each client, I'm approaching it differently. So like I had a client in Texas talking to someone in California, and they talked for 2 months. And because it was the beginning where he really wasn't allowed to fly, he wanted to from like day one. And then when they did meet in person, the chemistry wasn't really there, unfortunately. So it was, you know, it was like basa, we say in Hebrew, like a shame, like, cause you're like invested emotionally for 2 months and it's a letdown. However, he was still thankful for the experience. You know, he did think it was a relevant match. To me as a matchmaker, I feel so bad because I made the match, but I really feel like you guys kind of have to, like, if you know you can't meet like for 2 months, you're gonna have to try to say to each other, like, can you scoot back so I can see like full body? Like you have to like do that so that you don't like meet and then you like don't know what you were really getting. It wasn't just about that. I'm just like, hopefully you get a little bit flirty after the first month. And I'm not saying anybody should say like take your clothes off on the camera. Absolutely not. I'm just saying you might need to like stand up. You might need to like text each other like full body pictures, and then you kind of will start to know what the other person looks like. This is like if it's already been going on a month. Don't ask for this like in the first, you know, few Zooms. So that's number one, to see if you're going to feel attracted. Number two, you should go through like deeper questions. Like I have maybe you I'll send a follow-up email after this. I made a virtual guide. We can actually put the link in here too if I have time to grab it, about like good questions to ask. It was supposed to be for in-person dating. It works for virtual dating. Like questions that go deeper, like how many kids do you see yourself having? Really, like where could you live? Where couldn't you live? Who's like your greatest role model? If you could have anyone over for dinner to pick their brain because you want to see how their mind works, who would it be and why? And because these questions are going to like help you understand the person's values and how their brain works. And you could start to do fun things like, okay, if we had a kid and they were sick at midnight, like who would wake up? Like, this is like if you're like 3 months talking, you know, you might actually need to like play out these scenarios. Then by the time you meet, you could be on the same page about so many things and be like almost ready to get engaged if it's like 3 months of talking like this, you know? So we have the beauty of that, of getting to know each other over time and picking each other's brains and going deeper. So you kind of can't be shy to be like, can we do this article that this matchmaker recommended? There's an article called the 36 questions to fall in love. There's even a YouTube channel that someone created so you can watch people doing it. So you could say to your date, why don't we both watch one of the episodes of the YouTube channel? And then we do it was by a psychologist came up with the questions. And he said, like, if two strangers go through this list of questions in this order, they're going to feel like they fell in love by the end. So that could be a really fun thing to do. Then there's things like virtual tours of museums. You can ride the rides together virtually from Disneyland. So you could do screen share. You should maybe play online games, watch some Netflix together. So you feel like you've had a game night, a movie night. Another great thing to do is order each other dinner from your home cities. Like, ask the girl what's her favorite food. So I'd say chicken parmesan, and then ask the guy. Let's say he says Mexican. So I'll look up a Mexican restaurant in his area and send it to him on, Uber Eats or whatever, DoorDash, and he can do it to me. And then we, so again, just tell each other the favorite food, and then you pick the restaurant and surprise each other. And another thing, a guy, if he just wants to be chivalrous, he can say, let me take you to a virtual dinner, and he can offer, to treat the lady. And all I have to say is, last thing I want to say is, if you feel safe to fly and one of you can do it, let whoever city is more safe. So if the guy's city is safer, you guys can like offer to split the flight in the hotel, and he can fly her to him. If he wants to pay the whole thing, he can. Us ladies, we love chivalry. We're never going to say no to that. Or if the best thing, if the man flies to the woman first to make her feel comfortable in her own environment and takes a hotel near her. But if you can meet, do it. If you really don't feel safe doing it, you live with family, they're immunocompromised, you can't do it, fine. But the sooner you can meet, the better. So I say 3-4 weeks of talking and then meet. So that's my ultimate, kind of guidelines.
What was that YouTube channel called again?
Oh, if you Google the 36 questions to fall in love, I think you'll find the YouTube channel also. Someone sent the article, but they created a whole YouTube channel where you can watch people going through of all backgrounds. Like that, sometimes they have an African American with a Caucasian person, an Asian person so they're doing it with people from different backgrounds. And Andrea, what would you say about the long distance?
Yeah,
I'm curious.
It's such a great question, and I think you had so many great suggestions. I actually happen to mostly date in my life long distance, so this that I had to bridge all the time, and there are so many more things available right now, which is a really great thing. I would add, you can do fun dates like you would do, in your personal home via, video call. So, cooking something together, you send yourself the grocery list beforehand, you agree on what you're gonna make, and then you make it together at the same time. Sometimes just something as silly as like falling asleep with the phone next to your ear and listening to your partner is a great way to build that intimacy without having to be physically intimate or doing things that you're not comfortable or is appropriate to do over camera. Also, sometimes for traveling, finding a fun place to meet halfway, or if both of you don't live in cities right now that are, have a ability to be healthy for everybody involved, find somewhere that's a little bit safer and see if you can meet there. So there are definitely ways to bridge that gap. I definitely used those questions and looked up on Google all like the different questions you could come up with. And don't go in with the expectation you're gonna go through them all. It's just a great icebreaker and a great way to like get to know your partner a little better. And sometimes it's more about laughing about what question is being asked, or like seeing how your partner approaches the question versus getting the answer to the question. So I think those were all great suggestions. And I think as time goes on, you just kind of have to figure it out. I know my brother-in-law is dating somebody who lives in Canada right now, and he's in Seattle, and they've had a really challenging time, but there's a park in the middle called Peace Park, and they get to meet up at Peace Park every once in a while.
Wow.
But it's a 2-hour travel for both of them, which can, not all of them can do every weekend. So that's definitely, it's a hard time right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, we do the best we can. I think those were amazing tips. I love the meet halfway. I never thought about that. I'm going to start using that in my business because then both people have to invest in the ticket and the hotel, and like you're on kind of like equal ground. So yeah, you should.
I actually have a story about that.
Oh, cool.
When I was in, so I live in New York, but I'm from Pennsylvania, and I knew this girl from college, and she was from I don't remember. Let's say she was from Long Island, okay? She was dating a guy who like lived on the Amtrak train station. Meaning, okay, came out wrong. It was a city that was on the Amtrak station. So I took the train with her one day, and she's like, I said, "Where are you going?" She's like, "Oh, well, I'm going to Philly, and that's like halfway, and the guy that I'm seeing is taking the train from his end of the track and meeting me in Philly also. We're gonna have a date in Philly." That was like a couple years ago. But meaning like they both, were they were 3 hours away from each other, but if they both go an hour and a half, it wasn't so bad. And they got married.
Totally.
Very cute.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I think is anybody brave enough to chat me another question? Otherwise I have one more I'm gonna go with. Okay, I'm gonna give you 3 seconds. Okay, if we get to it, maybe we can. Okay, so I think the main thing that I got from a lot of people that submitted for registration, they were hoping to learn a different perspective on dating from this class. I guess I wanted to ask you guys if you feel like from your experience with matchmaking people, if you feel that people need a different perspective, or if it's really just the clarity on what they're looking for. Because maybe that's, maybe if people after this class can take some time to really write down their values and really write down their big 6 and which 3 are they going to be flexible on. So like if you had to like pick, is it that they're being too picky, or is it that they don't know what they want? I think women, I mean, I can only really speak from my experience. We get told a lot that we're picky and got to give guys a chance. So which one is it?
That's awesome. Do you want to start, Andrea? I'm very curious your thoughts.
Sure. I think it's a really hard question. And I think that in each stage of your dating life, it constantly changes because you probably go to events like this that give you new perspective all the time. And sometimes that's helpful to you and sometimes it's not. So like, for example, there's usually the perspective of like, I was saying before, date everybody who comes along your way. Versus, really know what you want and just go for that. And there was a point after like a year of dating in New York that I got really frustrated and I was like, this is not working. I never thought I would do this. I was totally anti this perspective, but I'm going to give it a try. So I dated everybody who asked me out. It was a total fail for me. It was a total fail. I won't lie. It was not the perspective I needed, but it was the perspective I needed to like calm down in my dating life and be like, I'm okay with who I am. When he's the right person, he's going to come along and I'll be ready for him. And I need to get myself ready instead of just always trying to make myself better for the next guy that comes around. And sometimes that perspective of going back to yourself instead of thinking about how are you going to choose between the different people, often recommend to just center yourself and then you can go back out there. But sometimes people need that perspective of date everybody who's, open to it because they are saying no to just any and everybody. And I usually mostly see that with people who have this very specific type that they're looking for. And so anybody who comes their way, they can be great, but if they don't like the picture, the answer is no. And I think dating that way can be very challenging. And sometimes I try to get those singles to change their perspective.
Right. Okay.
What do you think?
That's awesome. Yeah. Totally agreed with everything you said. I'm learning so much from you too, Andrea. I love our shared matchmaker wisdom. So yeah, it's okay. So what I would say is a good general rule of thumb is if you are going on tons of dates all the time, whether it's virtual or in person right now, you are doing the right thing. You're saying yes a lot because that's why you have a lot of dates. If you are barely going on dates, you might be too picky because you're saying no a lot based on the photo and the profile. Or if you are someone that would say yes a lot, but you're getting a lot of no's, then talk to me. Let's have a consultation because I want to fix that. Because if you're the one who's willing to give all these people a chance and you keep getting no's, that my heart hurts because you deserve the yeses because you're being open. And it could be as simple as rewriting your profile and just telling you to go get professional headshots taken. And I just want to say, everyone will fight me on this when I tell them to go do professional headshots. Oh, that's for like a movie star. That's weird. No one does that. Everyone does it now. If for the profiles that stand out and pop, that person took professional photos, or they have someone in the family that's really good at iPhone photos and did it for them. And you can still do professional photos. The professional headshot photographers are dying for work right now. So you're doing a mitzvah by keeping them in business too. And they'll meet you outside in parks, by beaches, and rooftop gardens. They'll stay socially distanced, and you'll get beautiful outdoor photos during the summer. And as soon as you put those new photos on, there's just something about the colors. There's a little bit, like a little bit airbrush, not much, but you're wearing your best clothes. You have your best hairdo, your best makeup. Make sure, men, if you need a haircut, go to the hairdresser before. Women, if you feel like pampering yourself and doing the hair really nice that day they all need work too. So you're keeping businesses in business, and you're taking care of yourself. And maybe you just need your profile rewritten. Make sure you don't have any negative language on a dating profile or matchmaking profile. Everything positive. Make sure you sell yourself as a unique person. Like, write things you're passionate about, things that you appreciate about life. We can talk about that another time. You can email me privately. But if you are saying no, and like you're getting tons of options and you're saying no a lot, and so you're like, oh, I have no dates, but I had 5 offers last week. Okay, so then, so look at your big 6, get open on like 3 of them. And if you feel like you're being open on 3 of them, and if you feel like you're saying yes more than no, love it. If you're getting burnt out on dating, like Andrea said, maybe switch all your dates to virtual, because you can get less burnt out because you don't have to like leave the house. And then you're kind of being your own matchmaker, pre-screening the person before you decide to go, meet them in person. I think you'll get less burned out if you do them as virtual dates first,
I have to say, we
that's my 2
started,
cents.
I had not to plug Bashert Lounge, but I will plug Bashert Lounge.
Yes,
We actually
of course.
that's kind of what we do now, is when we have 2 people that say yes to each other, you have a 15-minute video date, break the ice. You want to see this person again? It changes. Because it's not a picture then. You know what I mean? Now, the picture is important, guys. I wanted a free resource, not free, but there's a thing called Shoot, SHOOTT. They're based in a couple of major cities across the US. It's a free half-hour outdoor photo shoot, and then you pay per picture. I think you have to buy a minimum of like 4 pictures at $15 a pop. And you can pick from like 100 pictures, whatever you take.
Wow.
Half an hour. I did it. It was great. I loved it. So that's my little tip for you guys.
Are they everywhere, Sam? Or
they're
only
in New York. There's a couple locations on the West Coast, San Francisco, LA.
Wow.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I did the one in New York.
Amazing.
So it's like a low cost way to get really nice pictures. So as we're wrapping up,
Sam, can I ask Jessica one question really quickly?
Yes, go for it.
Just while we have her here, I wanted to know what should people think about, or when should they reach out to a dating coach like you? Like, what are the signs? Like you mentioned one, that, they're willing to say yes, but they're getting all these no's. So what are some of the other signs that somebody might take and say, maybe I should have a couple sessions with a dating coach and see if I can change where I'm at in my dating?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yes, if you are saying yes and you haven't gotten a date like in let's say 3 weeks, but you've gotten tons of suggestions, and you say yes and you don't get any yeses, for sure. It's I won't say like a number, like there's no magic number like 10 or whatever. But yeah, if you keep saying yes and you don't get a yes, and let's say you get a 1 in 10 yes, only, so come to me. If you're not getting any yeses, of course, come to me or any dating coach. Just an hour of like going over your dating profile, hearing a little bit about you and the kinds of people that you've dated, doing like a little history inventory. It can be enough for me to kind of like I say, like I'm a general practitioner and I can kind of diagnose you. Like if you need to go to more of a relationship therapist with a therapy degree and background, or just maybe a coach that does deeper work, maybe not a therapist, or if I can just help you because we can fix your profile and pick better photos. and then you'll be, you know, you'll be fine. And if you want to work with me privately, like where I am headhunting and searching for you, we can talk about that. But if you are already on Saw You at Sinai, or you're in Bashert Lounge, or you have other matchmakers that help you as mitzvah, and you keep saying yes, but you don't get yeses back, just do a couple of sessions with someone like me, and that could like change everything.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, a
Jessica.
yes means, oh, sorry, a yes means a yes to a date. If you're not getting any yeses to virtual or in-person dates, that's what I mean. Then we can help you.
Okay. We're gonna wrap up this part of the class. I'm sending a couple of links. I sent these in the beginning of the class, so I'm sending them now again. So just as I think a couple people joined us in the middle, this event is brought to you by the Bashert Lounge and Fast Pass to Love. I put in a couple of links for how to get on Bashert Lounge Facebook, our email address, if you want to get signed up in our database to get matched. Jessica also has her own database and also works with matching singles with her clients. I put her contact information in there. She's an internationally award-winning dating matchmaker and dating coach. We're also happy to help you in any way we can. I just want to thank everybody for coming on tonight. This was the launch of our first mini-series and our first class. So thank you very much, and thank you to Jessica and Andrea. And I'm going to stop the recording.